From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosa Bianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
What's on tap every week, partner? Small business, small business, small business. And the person best suited to help us work through standard operating procedures and operating systems for that business, Steve Preda. By way of Hungary and now based in Virginia. Steve, welcome to the podcast, our friend.
Thank you, Luigi and Matthew. Nice to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. So you've written 4 books, huge successes. You're about to launch your 5th, Strategy OS. Walk us through how Strategy OS succeeds your latest success, Pinnacle.
Well, thank you, Luigi. So I have to make a correction. So I've written 4 books. This is the 5th, but the first 2 were not a huge success. So I just want to put it out there.
Humility, I love it.
But the last couple of them were pretty well received, over 105-star reviews each. Still work in progress. And what the first of these 3 was buyable was all about figuring out what you're trying to do with your life if you're a business owner and how you can use your business as a vehicle to your ideal life. So it's kind of the whole gamut of visualizing and then improving your business and then fine-tuning it for sale and then the whole transaction and the transition, what you do when you get out of your business. The second one in the kind of this sequel, this trilogy, Pinnacle, it's all about the middle part. So how do you fix your business? How do you make your business turn into a well-oiled machine? Great execution, vision, plan, strategic planning, playbooks, profitability, all that stuff. That's Pinnacle. And the new one coming out, Strategy OS, is essentially climbing the next mountain. So when you already have this well-oiled machine business, what do? How do you continue to improve it? How do you take it from the local Fast 50 to the Inc. 5000 and possibly the Fortune 500? What are the strategy levers to pull? And this field, the strategy field, has been very fragmented over the last decades. And I was looking for a way to make it modular, make it like a Lego that you can put them together step by step, build your strategy from the ground up into essentially a perpetual growth machine.
I love that analogy of the Lego block. Being in business is very difficult. It's not for everyone. Do you think small business is possible for everyone? I mean, can you make a gazelle a zebra? Can you make a zebra a lion? Or does it take a very particular mindset and personality to go into business?
It's a great question. So, a lot of people talk about the visionary and the COO dynamic or second in command dynamic. So you've got the visionary entrepreneur who is, what I read many years ago, the entrepreneurial dream, I think it was called, book. And they were talking about this idea that only about 1% of our society is real entrepreneurial personalities. And if it was more than 1%, everything would be hell in a handbasket because these people would screw everything up. So it's just the right amount of yeast to make the bread, so to say. So I would say not everyone is going to be an entrepreneur. However, I believe that most people have what it takes to become an operator of a business, what Gino can call it the integrator or the second in command, who can run business out of a recipe. So that's why the franchise scene is so vibrant in America, because a lot of people, they want to run their own business and then they buy a franchise, which is a full recipe, and they just follow the recipe and they have the discipline and the diligence and the hustle, then they can all be successful.
So Steve, you have a very interesting perspective, right? Because you come from a European system with a European background, and there are very different socioeconomic mores. And you come to America, and like, it's no secret, Americans have this entrepreneurial chip on their shoulder, right? They're independent by nature. They've got this go west and manifest destiny. How have you found it different dealing with the American entrepreneurial mindset versus the European continental one?
Well, I believe so. Yesterday, I had a conversation with my daughter, and she said something which was really interesting. I mean, it's kind of, I'm not sure I fully agree with it, but basically, what she said that the thing about America is that all these dysfunctional people came over from Europe who were basically couldn't make it in Europe for whatever reason. They were square peg in a round hole. And they came over here, and then America is built by these people. So you can imagine a country which is built by all these dysfunctional people. You say chip on the hole on the shoulder, all these individualists. So that's the difference. It's a country of individualists. Now, personally, it really fits my personality. I was struggling in Europe with this whole idea of conforming to this whatever societal expectations and all that stuff. I want to do my own stuff. And in America, it's so much easier to do that because it's normal here to do it. In Europe, it's kind of abnormal. Sometimes entrepreneur is a kind of a derogatory term. It's the people who are not doing things right. And here, it's kind of the hero of society is the entrepreneur who makes it next to riches. It's the American dream. So that's how I see it, and I love to be here for that reason.
Well, thank your daughter for the compliment because these American rejects love being rejects and we wouldn't go back.
Hey. Hey, Steve, I got a couple questions for you. So before you started writing and before you started speaking on stages and coaching and consulting for people, you were like me, you were in the investment banking world. So bring me back and tell me how you got started there and then what made you transform from working with corporate America to smaller and more medium-sized businesses.
So do you want the true story or the embellished story?
Always the truth, my man. Always the truth.
So the true story was that I got fired. So I was running an investment banking department for a major bank in Hungary, and the bank was going through a soft summer, and my deals were not closing either. And I just got the pink slip on a Friday. Now, the fortunate thing was that I was almost closing those deals. So I had 3 deals that were really close, and I walked across the street, and Monday I opened up my own office, and I got those clients to come over. And
Nice.
I kept working with them, and that's how I got my start. And then I went from there. So that's how I got started. But the other truth is that I always wanted to become an entrepreneur. So my great grandfather, I'm coming from a family of professionals, doctors and lawyers and stuff like that. So entrepreneurship was not in the conversation at all. It was not something that people would do, decent people would do. However, I had a great grandfather I've never met, I've never known him. He died before I was born. But I always heard these stories from my grandfather, how he built this great bakery chain in Budapest, and he was an orphan, and he kind of falsified his birth record so he could be a bakery master at the age of 14 instead of 18 and all that stuff. And he built this big business, and he was my hero. So I was just thinking, how could I be like him? And then I went, when I came of age, Hungary was just going through this change of regime from communism to capitalism, and I got a scholarship in the Netherlands, and I went to London for 3 years on an internship kind of job, and kind of my starting date kept being pushed back, and then I got a really high-paying job in Budapest from International Bank. So I was just, I was in this golden cage, wanting to be an entrepreneur, but the opportunity cost being too high. And then when I was 35 years old, I got fired, and it was like a big stone came off my shoulder. No more opportunity cost, and I could just start doing my thing. And luckily, it worked out. It wasn't a straight line success, but if you work hard for 25 years, you can become an overnight success kind of thing.
That's awesome. Overnight success in 25 years. I think you downplayed it. I think you missed about 5. I think it's like 30 years you're an overnight success.
Yeah, 23. Okay.
So, Steve, let's dive right into it because I'm really interested because me and Luigi have a book coming out a couple days before your next book. And ours is more about getting people into entrepreneurism because we really believe that everybody out there should own their own business in some way, shape, or form. Our book's called Buying the American Dream, right? Because we don't believe, the old American dream was, let me buy a house, have a wife, 2.5 kids, and the yellow lab running around. That's not the dream anymore. We believe in this country, it's entrepreneurship, and it's a lot of benefits, right? So I think your book actually goes very well with ours if somebody doesn't own one, because you teach them how to scale. So let's talk about Strategy OS and a little bit in granular with that one.
Yeah. So the idea here is, how do you build a differentiated strategy? So there are so many different definitions of strategy. So that's the first confusion. People look into strategy. Some people say strategy is all about the vision. Some people say strategy is strategic planning. It's about setting annual goals and medium-term goals and quarterly goals. Other people say that, no, this is not it. Strategy is all about finding the crooks in your business. What is this thing, this hidden lever that if you can fix, then everything starts to grow. And then there's the Michael Porter concept of being different is the strategy. And then you have the military strategy. You have got the Art of War and Clausewitz on war. And basically it's about using whatever limited resources you have to solve a problem. So what is strategy? So that's a big question. And I typed in what is strategy into ChatGPT, and I basically got this alphabet soup of things, basically everything and nothing. So the way I kind of systemize it for myself, I started from this idea of the differentiating activities of Michael Porter. I call them unique activities. And if you can put enough of these unique activities, things that you are doing differently from everyone else, then you have what I call a strategy stack. It's a stack of these activities. And if you have a strategy stack, you have dug a moat around your business, because it's going to be near impossible to copy that strategy stack. But how do you put this together? So my book is about this idea of the strategy stack. How do you put it together? And then you have put it together. I also added a couple of chapters. What do you do then when you already have this differentiated business that no one can touch? Then how do you grow this business further? And how do you become like a fortune company when you are getting into different industries, different businesses, you're spawning businesses, you are innovating, you're doing M&A, reinventing sometimes, that kind of stuff. But the core of the business is the idea of the strategy stack and how do you build it. And one critical thing which I stumbled upon and which I found the most fascinating is that businesses develop these unique activities by actually facing constraints and overcoming them. And in the process of overcoming a really big obstacle in the business, you actually create a unique way of doing the business, which then is completely different from everyone else, and which allows you to swim out in this blue ocean kind of place where the competition is a lot less fierce. It's not like the shark-infested red ocean. It's a blue ocean, and you can then grow in a differentiated way.
Oh, I don't think that appetizer was enough. Can you give us an insight as to what those 6 simple steps you mentioned in Strategy OS are?
Absolutely. So the first step, I call it pick your position. So it's about this idea of figuring out what your core business is. So what is it that you do best than others? Where is the root of your differentiation of your competitive advantage? What are your core assets? The most profitable customers, channels, most profitable products, and then you can synthesize down your real core business. So if you find that, it's a great start. Then the next one is the 6 competitive forces. So where are you in this in this force field of your rivals, your customers, your suppliers, your substitutes, and your new entrants, and the government regulations, all that stuff in this force field? Where is your business, and how can you shift this force field in your favor? Then I look about positioning your business along the 2 axes of features and performance. So are you going to be like the cheapest product in the market, low features, low performance, but you get it out there? Think about a McDonald's or a Chevy Spark, in terms of a car. Or are you going to give this full feature car, which is not very high performance, like a Toyota that has every gadget or the new extras in it, but it's like a small engine and so on? Or are you going to go for high performance but low features? Are you really niching yourself, for example, like Porsche? Think of a Porsche, it's not the safest car, that's the most convenient car, but by God, it's really good to drive. Or you're going to want to give everything. You want to be a high feature and high performance, like a Bentley. It's super expensive, 6-liter engine. You got everything in it, full leather dashboard. So what is the kind of product? So that is about strategic positioning. So that's step one. Step two is finding the crooks. So I told you a little bit about crooks. So Richard Rummel came up with this idea of the crooks. So how do you find that lever in the business, deep in the business, that if you can move it, then you can open the floodgate to growth. So that's finding your low-hanging fruit, basically. And the step three is about capitalizing on constraints. So what are those constraints that you have in the business, and how do you turn them into brand promises? And one of the company I really love is IKEA. All about IKEA, which was founded, I don't know if you know that, you guys know that, but it was founded by a Swedish teenager who lived in a farm in the middle of nowhere, so that there wasn't even a village around him. And he got some pocket money from his father for his good grades when he was 13 years old. And then he wrote this letter to this Swiss pen factory and convinced them to sell them some pens. And then he wrote sales letters to sell those pens to the villagers. And that over time, that sales letter morphed into a newsletter and then into the IKEA catalog, which became the most published document in the world, 300 million copies printed twice a year. So capitalize on your constraints. So what are those constraints that then turn into your brand promises? And then how do you build that strategy stack? So how do you then create more unique activities like that? So there are 6 business levers. There are 5 technology levers that you can pull, and you can build your flywheel, your strategic flywheel. So I discuss in the book how to build a really robust flywheel. What are the 9 flywheel teams you can combine together? So the 2 major one is the innovation-driven company and the output-driven company. So then you create this strategy stack, and then you start to expand into the different geographies, products, channels, marketplaces, network effects. So you know that all the tech companies, they are harvesting the network effects. So if you go on Facebook and you invite your friends, then that's a network effect. Facebook doesn't have to spend any money on it to go viral. So how do you put virality in your business? And then the last chapter, when you're already a big company, you have a portfolio of businesses, then how do you maintain or build and maintain an innovation culture in your business? How do you do smart M&A as opposed to dumb M&A? I'm sure that you guys kind of talk about it in your book as well, how to do dumb stuff and how do you not do that? And eventually, how do you reinvent the business? There are 11 ways to reinvent a business. When you hit a wall, when you get disrupted and you have to reinvent. Nintendo started out as a playing card company for gamblers in 1889, and then it morphed into a card for everyone, like Disney cards and stuff like that for kids. And then they went into really weird toys, and then they ended up in video games. And that was a series of reinventions. IBM reinvented itself from a hardware manufacturer to a service company. So there are many, many examples. Apple was reinvented when Steve Jobs came back to Apple in 1997. So I tell all these stories about reinventions, and that's kind of full circle. So you go from just figuring out what you do, get to a Fortune 500 company that is reinventing itself.
So what was your favorite story that you came out of by doing your research on the book? Which company reinvented itself the best that you liked and that you saw you could take some nuggets away from to really help?
So, I mentioned IKEA. IKEA is kind of my favorite, but another example is Ryanair. So Ryanair was a fledgling airline in Europe in the late 80s, and they, Europe was highly regulated, and then they managed to find a loophole and get in on the Dublin-London route. And they were growing, and then they got into the London-Amsterdam, but then they hit a brick wall. They realized they are not going to make it. They're going to lose money. Then they came over, they studied Southwest Airlines, and then they went back to England, and they kind of did everything on the square route. square root on yeah, I guess not the square root, on kind of on the double on the 10th time, on one magnitude more than Southwest Airlines. And one of the things that they did, which was, I think, was ingenious, which turned them into the biggest airline in Europe, they embraced this idea of being really cruel to passengers. So they were vilified by, having the seats too close to each other and not being, you cannot flip the seat, and not being able to take anything with you on board, and not being able to check in at the airport, and all that stuff they did. They basically turned it, they flipped it around. They said, yes, we are very aggressive, but ultimately this is for the customer. And because we do all these things, the implication is we must be the cheapest. And people started going after Ryanair. They must be the cheapest if they do so many outrageous things. Like at one point, the CEO said that people will get standing, there will be standing seats, so to say. You can just hang on like on a bus, or you have to pay for going to Blue and stuff like that. Really crazy stuff, and they embraced it.
Yeah.
And they turned it into a brand promise, which is insane. Bad customer service into a brand promise. That's what they did. And now they can fly all over the Europe. They have the most flights. They can really target really small destinations that no one can afford to fly there, because they keep it super cheap. They have these big bearings, go there, and working class people who could never afford to fly, they love it.
What's that telling you about society? We love cruelty.
Okay.
So, Steve, the book sounds amazing. When is that going to hit the shelves? When is it going to be online? Where can everybody go find it and buy it?
So it's coming out April 10th. My mom is turning 80 on April 10th, and I thought, what a better way to celebrate that than get this book out. And it's gonna go pre-order next Monday. So if you want to pre-order the Kindle copy, you can get it on March 27. I don't know when you guys come out, but with this episode, but it's essentially hitting the shelves very, very soon.
The name of the book again is Strategy OS: Implement an Advanced Business Operating Systems in 6 Simple Steps. I know me and Luigi are going to go and pre-order this as soon as we get off this podcast. I'm actually really looking forward. Go on.
One more thing I'd like to say. So it's not just the book that is coming out, but I'm also launching an LMS portal, a learning management system portal, where coaches and business owners can coach themselves how to implement these tools in their business. So that's going to come out as well. It's going to be strategyos.app, app, and then you can go on and you can basically study. I'm going to have videos there where I explain how this works, how to implement it. There are tools that people can download and use. So that's going to be the other way that people can access this material.
I love that so much, because so many times, like, I know I'm guilty of it too, is I'll pick up a book and I'm like, this is a really great strategy, but I need to go deeper, and there's nowhere else to go deeper, and I forget about it. At least with an LMS system, you can actually dive deep in there and learn more about the work and continually put it into action.
That's the idea. So the theory is worth nothing without action, right? So I'm very much an action-oriented person, and right now we have so much theory, so much knowledge. Now with ChatGPT, you can just ask a question and you get a really a thorough answer to it. So it's not a lack of information. It's rather the opposite. It's a plethora of information. It's too much information. And we need people who can make sense of it and who can simplify it and actually help you do it, or even do it for you. So that's kind of the idea.
100%. The key's always in the execution, right? So, Steve, how can everybody get in touch with you? We spoke about the book. We told them that they can grab it. They can pre-order it soon. But are you on any social media channels? Are you on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram? How can they reach out to you directly?
Yes. So my main home is LinkedIn. So Steve Preda. You can find me there. I also have Twitter, stevepreda.com without the dot. I also have Facebook. You can find me Steve Preda there as well. But main home is LinkedIn, and my website, which is stevepreda.com. So you can download the summaries of my books there. You can assess your company. I also have a website called Viability Assessment. So it's biblebusiness.com, and you can go there and you can assess the viability of your business there. So plenty of tools, but if you go to stevepreda.com, you should be able to access this stuff.
So, Steve, you have 5 books written. You already dealt with investment banking. You're helping small business and medium-sized businesses right now. What's next in your life? Where's 3, 4, 5, 6.0 Steve going?
Well, I don't want to jinx these kind of things, but I'm very excited about the portal. I think it's gonna be a great vehicle for me to deliver content. So I have a lot of tools that is not even gonna be on the portal yet. So I keep developing it. In my mind, I have this idea that there are 1.7 million companies, small to medium-sized, 10 to 250 people companies in the US. And the average lifespan of this business is 8.5 years only. 185,000 of these businesses disappear each year. So I believe that with great coaching and great tools, none of these businesses would have to disappear. So we could save these businesses. That would add 4% per annum to our GDP growth each year. And we could leave China in the dust if you're not doing that already. So that's kind of my mission, to contribute to keeping all these businesses alive and keeping the economy growing.
Steve, thank you so much for being here. We want to be respectful of your time, but before we do let you run, I have one question for you. If you had to go work in one industry right now, what would it be and why?
It would be business consulting. And tell you why. I think the opportunity is immense. I think that we are just scratching the surface. So there are systems like EOS or Scaling Up or Pinnacle that have started the revolution, giving the tools to small business owners in their hands so they can actually fix their businesses. All those people who are not in business because they are Harvard MBAs, they are in business because they know something really well, and they need to build a vehicle to deliver that something to the customers, whether it's a product or a service. And I think there's a huge opportunity to give these tools to these people, and coupled with tools like AI, then you have a full toolkit. You've got the structure, you got the information, and you got your own talent. You combine these 3, and it's gonna be a wonderful mixture.
I love it. Steve, thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate it. Everybody, go out, get the book, April 10th, Strategy OS. That's a wrap of the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, guys. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the show. And make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.